Hello everyone and welcome back to the SteemTrail Gaming News. Today is the 8th May 2018. My name is Kralizec and I will be your host for the evening. Today we got 3 stories for you guys. First, we're going to talk about the fact that World of Warcraft gold is now worth 7 times what Venezuelan Boliars, the currency used in Venezuela, is worth. Secondly, we're going to take a look at an NRA conference where one of the spokesperson blamed video games for the gun shootings taking place, well, mainly in America. And last of all, we're going to take a look at Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo being forced by the Federal Trade Association to remove the void warranty if removed stickers. But let's begin with World of Warcraft and Venezuela. Though, before we begin, this time we're going to get a bit political, so if you don't like politics, don't listen. I'm not forcing you, it's just my opinions. So, last year, there was a bit of news about the fact that World of Warcraft gold, the currency used in World of Warcraft, was worth double what Venezuelan currency was worth at that time. The Venezuelan currency, called Boliars, is currently worth about 69,000 Bolivars per 1 United States dollar. And World of Warcraft gold, if you do a little bit of calculations, because WoW token, which can be bought for $20, is currently being sold at about 200,000 gold pieces. So if you do a quick divide, you get about 2,000. Sorry, I'm spewing bullshit. About 10,000 gold pieces per $1 in World of Warcraft. And if you do a quick calculation again, if you have 70,000 bolivars per 10,000 gold, that's 7 times the worth. This only proves the fact that socialism is a bad thing. And you need to remember, I come from a country which tried socialism for about, okay, how long was it? About 60 years. And before that happened, our country was one of the biggest economies in the world. If I remember correctly, there was a time where Czech Republic, or Czechoslovakia at that time, was the 7th largest economy in the world, because so much of the industry from the previously existing Austro-Hungarian Empire was located especially in the Czech Republic. But then communism came, or socialism, because there's never real communism. But let's be honest, this wasn't communism, it was what is called real socialism. And it destroyed the economy so much. Yes, Czech Republic is a good place to live in. I'm very happy to live here. I wouldn't like to live anywhere else, to be honest. I really like it here. The people are good, even though they're a bit too pessimistic for my tastes. But in general, they're good. The country is good. The laws are decent. Even the politicians are actually decent, to be honest. But we could have been at such a better place if socialism haven't been tried here. And Venezuela is just another case that shows how much socialism sucks. Otherwise, this isn't really that related to gaming. But another interesting fact is that if you actually go to the Venezuelan black market, World of Warcraft gold is actually 62 times more valuable than the Bolivar on the black market, as you need 636,000 Bolivars per US dollar. That's just freaking insane. And I'm very sad for the Venezuelan people. Very sad. I personally haven't lived through socialism, but I have heard enough from my parents, from their peers and friends. I have learned enough of history to understand that socialism isn't a good system of government. Everybody who values socialism should think really hard whether they have enough information, whether they had done enough study, or whether they just like the idea that the people who are above them will get dragged to their position. It's never that you will get dragged up. That never happens. It's always only the few people who are on the top that get dragged down. But another group of people, usually not the actual, let's call them revolutionaries, they don't get to the top. Only the few crazy power-mongering idiots get to the top. So be very, very of socialists. They never have their true intentions on the table. They don't want to help poor people. They want to drag the rich down to their level. Okay, that's one thing. This will certainly raise a lot of eyebrows. The second one is also political. But this time I'm gonna criticize the conservatives, the American conservatives. As an NRA spokesman at a conference named Dave Grossman, who is a former US Army Ranger and the author of numerous books about the psychology of killings, blames video games for the gun violence happening mostly in the United States. I'm gonna say bullshit. It's not video games. Stop trying to implement your ideology into others people's lives. Whether you're on the left or on the right, I really don't care for your ideologies. Especially not in my hobby. My hobby is about fun, not about politics. For fuck's fucking sake. So what he actually said is that this stuff is worldwide. Folks, I want you to understand this is not business as usual. Around the planet, children are committing crimes like no one's ever seen before in human history. It's not about the guns. The guns have always been there. It's the sick movies and the sick TV shows and especially the sick video games around the planet that are creating sick kids. Kids are not sick. The problem with gun violence is the ease of accessibility of guns in the United States. We don't have problems with guns violence here in Europe, not to such a scale as you do in America. And I do realize that it would be very hard to solve the problem of the ease of accessibility of guns in America because there are just so freaking many. And I'm not calling for a ban on guns. I think guns do have their place in a country's security, and even at an individual's level security. But they should be very hard to access, because especially young, and yeah, let's be honest, if young men, because it is the men who tend to go crazy with gun violence. Let's be blunt about it. That's just a fact. And I don't care whether you're a conservative or a leftist. It's just, guys tend to be more aggressive. It's just a fact of our biology. We have more testosterone, so we tend to be more outwardly aggressive. That's just a fact. And it's not the video games that are causing this. Though I do believe, as parents, you should probably try to limit what games your children play at certain ages. But teenagers should be brought up in a way that they are mature enough to realize that causing harm to others is a bad thing. And obviously you will always get a few crazy people who will just go out and cause violence. And they will find any tools they can find to do it. In Britain, as far as I know, they have been using knives. In America, it's guns. At other places, they will just be using their fists or just take a rock and smash somebody's head in. That's just the nature of crazy people. And because the guns are so accessible in America, And no, I don't mean to buy, I just mean to get. Like, your parents may have a weapon and you just know about it because your dad just was talking one day and you overheard him saying, oh yeah, I do have a gun in my drawer. If you're a crazy person and you want to take it out on somebody, now you know there is a weapon in the house and you can go and get it. And let's say there are, on average, 10 bullets in a gun. If you have good aim, you could kill 10 people with that very rapidly. It's much harder to do that with your fists. It's much harder to do that with a knife. There's a good chance somebody can stop you if you are armed with only a melee weapon. But if you have a gun, it is much harder to stop you. And again, I'm not proposing any solutions. I don't know what the solution for American gun crime is. But the solution certainly isn't to blame video games. Because video games can maybe in some people foster the feeling that killing is good. But to the majority of the population, they don't cause harm. It has been proven by multiple studies. And in general, if it was really the video games that were causing this, we would see so much more gun violence, so much more killings. It's like 20 people a year go out and kill somebody with a gun that is not a form of gang violence. And for a population, I think, of around 300 million in America, I think that is actually a pretty average number of crazy people. And a similar number in proportions of people commit crimes here in the Czech Republic, violent crimes. They beat somebody up to death. They stab somebody with a knife. They can get anywhere. But because the guns are so accessible in the United States, they will use a gun because they can commit much more damage with a gun. Especially if a household has multiple guns, which, by the way, Dave Grossman is a huge proponent of mass ownership of guns. If you have like 20 guns at your house and by chance, because there's always a chance, you get a crazy kid, he can take those 20 guns and instead of killing 10 people, he can kill like 100 people. So think about that. It's not a good thing to have multiple guns at your house. I'm just willing to go and say that. And the guns you have should not be loaded. And you should keep your ammo far away from the guns at a separate place so it's harder to create it. You should probably keep your gun in a safe. So when you are in danger, you can go and get it and then engage in the dangerous situation. But somebody who isn't supposed to have the gun can just go and grab it and go shoot people. It's just freaking obvious to me. Keep your guns very safe. Don't tell your children about the guns in your house. That may be part of the solution, but I really don't know what like a big plan sort of solution that would actually get rid of plenty of the guns in America would be. Maybe like a government buyout, even though I don't like the government getting involved. But there's just so many guns circulating in America that it is almost completely impossible to get rid of them, at least in a way that I could think of. I'm very sorry to say that, but until the amount of guns circulating amongst the American population lowers, you will always have gun violence. And please don't argue with Switzerland has almost the same amount of guns. They do, but it's a very different culture. You need to realize that. And the majority of people in Switzerland live in almost rural areas. They don't go to schools with hundreds of kids. They don't live in big cities with clubs where hundreds and hundreds of people frequent. It's just a very different country, and you need to realize that because it creates a different environment. And on top of that, as far as I understand, only people who have gone through the army service, or specifically men, because almost every man in Switzerland is forced to go through the army service, if I understand it correctly, has a gun. And these people have been trained how to handle a gun, how to keep it safe from your children. You need to do the same thing in America, because otherwise you will always have gun shootings. Man, I'm sure this video will rustle a lot of jammies. Okay, and our last piece of news for today is slightly more positive, as Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo are going to have to remove the void warranty stickers that you can find on many of their devices. This is because of a letter that has been sent by the Federal Trade Commission. That's about a law from 1975 actually, which is called Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act. And this act forbids a company from forcing or tying customers to use certain entity or specific parts for a warranty fulfillment, which means there's no such thing as authorized or unauthorized repairs. Essentially, this means you can go anywhere to get your PlayStation or Xbox or Switch repaired because the companies cannot force you to use their own repair stations. Obviously, these three companies haven't been the only ones who have got such letters. For the fact, we do know that HTC, Asus, and Hyundai also received an identical letter from the FTC. I'm going to guess that more companies actually got similar letters. Especially Apple should get one, because they are forcing you to use their own warranty centers. But the bigger mystery here is why the FTC waited so long to do this if such a law existed since 1975. And these companies have been forcing customers to use their own repair centers for years, maybe even decades, to be honest. I really don't know. But an interesting thing that came to my mind is the fact that this might actually be the saving grace of stores that sell computer games. If they also specialize in repairing whether it's consoles or notebooks or PCs, whatever it is, they could actually stand to make a living. Because then people would come to their store to pick up their repaired Switch and maybe buy a game while they're there. That might be an option. And a pretty good option in my opinion. And I do believe that this act is good. Even though I usually don't like the government going into stuff. But here, this is something that customers should have the right to. They should have the right to use whichever repairsman they want to, not only the one that the company is forcing upon them. And with that being said, that's going to be it for today, guys. I hope you did enjoy today's video. If you did, please consider giving us a like here on YouTube and subscribing to the channel. If you are watching on Steam, maybe you want to give us an upvote and follow the blog. Either way, be sure to leave a comment and be sure to tune in tomorrow for more gaming news, as we are your daily source of daily gaming news every single day. See you guys later with more gaming content.